Reportedly, the Chicago Bears could have the inside track on signing Trey Smith, but is signing Trey Smith in the contract that he's expected to garner, is that worth it, or should the Bears actually spread that out over multiple starting caliber offensive linemen? We'll talk a little bit about that, plus more free agents that the Bears could target on, and it's Friday, so that means we're diving into the mailbag. All that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And of course, everything's kind of hinging right now. Everybody's waiting to see what the Bears are going to do in free agency. Trey Smith is one of the biggest names out there in free agency, and a name that's really talked about as well. And Nate Taylor from The Athletic actually said that the Bears may have the inside edge on signing guard Trey Smith, saying this: I think the Bears probably have the inside track out of other teams not named the Chiefs to sign him in free agency. That's what will be so fascinating about the conversations we have next week in Indianapolis at the Combine. You can argue that Trey Smith is younger and just as good, if not better, than all the highest paid right guards in the league, which means you're thinking around 22, 23, 24 million, which was, as I reported, right around the franchise tag. And the Chiefs didn't want to make that commitment just to hold more time to see if they can get a long-term deal. So, you know, the financial implications of signing Trey Smith are the biggest thing, right? We know the talent that he brings, and it would be the Chicago Bears going after not only somebody that's been rumored a lot to be their number one target, but just makes sense. Now, I have typically, for the life of me, looked at when things are kind of mass reported and things like that, and it starts being the favorite thing by the media, I've started thinking like, all right, does that actually decrease the chances of it happening, right? That's just what I've been commonly thought to. I had the same mindset when it came to Ben Johnson. So many outlets were talking about Ben Johnson being perfect and wanting to come here, and it's the Bears' number one target. I was just like, hey, it may not end up happening, right? I think that's myself safeguarding myself from expectations, but you know, if the Bears do go out and land Trey Smith, it's going to be a huge financial implication. And that's what a lot of Bears fans over the last couple of weeks have really brought up about all of this, is that are the Bears really going to be willing to attach the type of money that it's going to take to get Trey Smith locked in here? And, you know, we even have a voicemail on that where we'll dig into it a little bit more, and that's a fair question. But I think, you know, when you look at potentially getting somebody that's his caliber at this age, they just don't hit it. And, you know, where a lot of people have talked about, well, look at what he did in the Super Bowl. All right, well, look what he did the 2 Super Bowls that he actually became a Super Bowl champion. Look what he did in the regular season. I never really understand when people just knock somebody for one thing, right, and try to just focus on that when there's a whole career to look at when it comes to Trey Smith. But like I've said in videos, I've done videos, like, you don't want to make Trey Smith the end-all be-all, though, right? You don't want to say it's Trey Smith or bust in your free agency, which leads it to a lot of other ways that the Bears can still drastically improve this offensive line, right? And that gets us to the next thing. And shout out to the people over at Bears Goggles On who put together a list of kind of, you know, free agent targets with the increased salary cap that the Bears could maybe obtain all of these guys, right, depending on how the money fits together. And number one on the list, they have Drew Dalman. Also another guy at center who's a veteran who typically at that age doesn't become unrestricted free agents. The Bears are going to have a great opportunity to go out and get him. And he is a guy that I want a veteran center snapping the ball. I just want that. I think when you look at what we've seen from the center position here for the Chicago Bears for the last handful of years, it's been a lot of disappointment. I want a veteran center. Drew Dalman more than fix that. He's still going to be a guy, though, that commands a pretty hefty contract, probably of upwards of close to $18 million per year for Drew Dalman. So you got to ask that question there. But Dalman is a guy that I really do like, and I would love to see if the Bears can get him. And then for this as well, Dalman's also 26 years old, so he's not just a short term; he's a long term. Will Fries, right? Is this another guy in this one that I really like his game, and you know, you look at him as a guard. Not to say that he's not necessarily as good as Trey Smith. He did have an injury last year, right? He has a season-ending injury, but he was right there as far as pace and all those type of things to get into it. So if you don't get Trey Smith because of the expense, you can get a combination of Will and Drew Dalman, and I love that combination as you bring in both those guys up here. Of course, going to be questions about the health, and that's fair when it comes down to it, but he was on pace for only 3 penalties all season long compared to Trey Smith in 9, right? But you're projecting that versus what you've seen in other places. But Will Fries graded higher in both run and pass blocking than Smith. So if the Bears go out and get him, that would be a great signing for the Chicago Bears, again, to improve that offensive line. The next guy that they have on here, which is the first time I've seen this guy slated or even rumored to go to the Chicago Bears, that's Nick Westbrook with the Tennessee Titans as a third wide receiver. And so I dug into his numbers. Last year, 32 receptions, 497 yards, 9 touchdowns, had an average of 15.5 yards per reception last year. And he did that on a solid amount of targets at 60, right? That sounds like a third wide receiver to me. On top of that, 6'2", 211 pounds. I like the idea of adding him to DJ Moore, Odunze, right? Even with Tyler Scott still being here. And he's a guy that probably can be gotten for a pretty reasonable amount. He's only 27 years old, 5 years in the league, in which he's every year but his rookie year, he's had at least 3 touchdowns, right? And he's healthy. 17 games played last season, 14 the year before that, 17, 16, 14. So this is another guy that can come in. And again, I get it. He's not replacing what Keenan Allen brought. And I think that once people kind of zoom out of that and look at, well, can he do what Keenan Allen did? But as a third wide receiver in your system, hey, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, I believe is how you pronounce it. He has the hyphenated last name. Looks to and shapes up statistically, at least on paper, to be a really solid acquisition if that is the way that the Chicago Bears go. So we'll see what happens there, man. I think overall, there's a lot of opportunity here for the Bears to just improve. And that's what it comes down to, is improve, make the right moves, make the right decisions to improve. That's what we're trying to do. So we'll see what the future is going to hold here for the Chicago Bears, man. I think, as I've said many times, it's going to be a fun offseason. It's going to be offseason, some revelations as well. And we'll see what the future holds for the Bears, man. What they do with this cap space is going to be important. And I think the balance between how they can balance out the acquisitions in free agency with what they can also do in the draft is really, really, really important. So, we'll see what happens in the future there, man. And last thing before we get into the mailbag that I just want to touch on real quick is it's shaping up. It's looking like Ian Cunningham is probably going to finally land a job. And all I'll say to that is once it happens, we'll have a live stream going over it. But if it does happen, hats off to Ian Cunningham for getting what he deserves. But the Bears also get some flexibility in the form of 2 third-round picks in compensatory picks if he does leave. So I think that helps the Bears in tremendous ways with flexibility as well as in this draft. And the third round, that's where some guys can go at. So, we'll maintain watching it, but everything looks really good that Ian Cunningham is probably going to land it if he doesn't turn it down. So we'll see what happens there in the future. But with that said, it is Friday. That means it is mailbag day here at Chicago Bears Central. Let's get into these mailbags. This one's from Greg.
Yo, what's up, Bears Central gang? I have a question. Who do you think we should take? Should we take the left tackle, Josh Daniels, or do we go inside and take Calvin Bates Jr.? I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on that. I believe it's a very critical 2 spots that we need to fill, and I think we should, in my case, I think we should take the left tackle, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts. As you already know, Chicago up, they're down.
Here's the thing. I think that we have to see what they do in free agency first, because they can go tackle or they can go guard, but I think it comes down to what they're able to sign in free agency. Like if they go out and get a guard, then, and I think either way, you're probably looking at a tackle and a guard, or at least maybe somebody that can play both positions that brings some flexibility. So as of right now, I don't have a one firm way that I would like to see them go, because you have to get through free agency first before you can really know exactly what you're going to need. But I don't think you can go wrong with either. The Bears need improvements. Even with Braxton Jones here, I say that you have to bring in somebody that is a strong, even somebody that you may project to get that starting position and let him battle for it, right? That's what I think the future is going to hold. So I think really either way, they can go either way as of right now in the draft. So that's my thought process. You can let me know what you think down below. Let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas. Kind of getting my head back above water. Flu knocked me out past 3 or 4 days, so I'm trying to get caught up on all the content here. And I came across that episode that Bobby did. Bobby, appreciate you doing that, man. You look like you were kind of fighting something just like I was, and hopefully C-Dub's all right. Appreciate you going, stepping in and doing that for us, brother. But you had a mailbag on there, man, where, Coach C came out and just, ripped my guy cold, man. And normally I agree with everything Coach C says, but, you're wrong on this, buddy. Coach C, you're wrong on that, man. And here's why. It makes very clear and obvious sense as to why you're wrong on this. Cole Kmet, yes, his production has not been what his contract has paid him. Like he hasn't played above that contract yet. So I get why you're saying that. But dude, he's had some of the worst offensive coordinators in the NFL since he got into the league, Coach C. You've never heard of a coach not knowing how to use a player? That's just foreign to you. You never heard of a coach being so bad that he misuses talent on the roster. Come on, man. Yes, Cole Kmet is a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. I don't care what you say. And he's going to go off, he goes off somewhere else to a better organization. You're going to find out real quick what Cole Kmet can be, in my opinion. And I just don't think that you can fully judge him. And when you look based off of the offensive coordinators that he had, he got drafted when Nagy was here. Okay. And then who we have after that? Okay. And then who we have after that at offensive coordinator? And then who we have after that at offensive coordinator? Okay. So how are we blaming Cole Kmet and dogging him like he's just some, bottom 5 tight end? Particularly in a league where, when you think about it, there's not that many good and effective tight ends. Like, think about it. How many just dogs at tight end are out there in the league? So, man, I'm not saying you're all the way wrong. We definitely need to see more from Cole Kmet. But, dude, you can't blame him when Justin Fields was here. Justin Fields didn't even like throwing to him. And then with Caleb, I see several plays. Coach C, I would just invite you to do this, man. Go back and watch the all 22 and look at how many times Cole Kmet is open per game and nobody throws to him. I just want you to do that. It's out on YouTube. Everybody can see it. Look at how many times he's wide open and he don't even get nobody to look his way. So I got to disagree with you on that, Coach C. I normally agree with you, man, but I had to step in and defend my boy Cole because that was kind of BS if you ask me. But take us up there now.
Darius, we agree sometimes, we disagree sometimes. The Cole Kmet slander is one that I just don't understand, right? I get it that he has not lived up statistically, but you can't overlook the fact of how he was misused last year, right? Especially after a breakout year in 2023. Of course, it's fair to think that he's going to jump. And that's not to say that Cole Kmet doesn't have things that he needs to work on to improve either way, but to act like coaching and play calling didn't impact the season that he could have had last year, to me, it's just tone deaf and blind. And it's really strange seeing the amount of slander, really. And that's kind of the thought process, right? We have that group think as Bears fans, and I've noticed that more being on this side of the camera, right, is that there's a lot of Bears fans that they'll hear something as a critique and they'll be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that too. And it's like, listen, I get it. Cole Kmet can definitely improve. That's just it is what it is. But there was definitely a play calling in a schematic aspect of Cole Kmet's season being down as well last year. And I think two things can be true on that. So we'll see under Ben Johnson. I expect Cole Kmet to have a really big year. Hopefully that comes to fruition, but we'll see. All right, let's get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from Keys.
Yo, what's up, fellas? It's your boy Keys on this lovely Wednesday, man. Hope you guys doing well. But, hey, I know all the talk has been about Trey Smith and Drew Dalman and how much money they going to garner and what. I think, hypothetically speaking, I think with the cap that we got right now, I think it'll cost us a total of maybe 30 to 35 million. Dalman is a good center. I don't think, if he was to get some money, I don't think it's going to be like no 15 million. That's just what I believe and what I think. He ain't no Creed Humphrey. If he was Creed Humphrey, then it'd be like, okay, I'll spend that 40 million to get him, to get him and Trey Smith. But I don't think he's worth that. He's probably worth half of that. He's a good center, don't get me wrong. But as far as with Trey Smith, that thing could go. I could see them giving Dalman 10 million and then Trey Smith upwards of close to 25. Now, the thing is he worth that much? You don't necessarily know. My whole thing is us getting wrapped up into paying all this money and then we get another issue of Nate Davis. But I don't think that's going to be the case with Trey, because Trey looks like he cares about the game. He's a mean mauler, all that good stuff. So I do expect the Bears to get both those guys. Now, where it becomes interesting is we still got to fill out our defensive line. And I know everybody looking at edge, which should be rightfully so. I'm still a proponent of getting another interior guy to go with Javon Dexter, even if it's through a draft too. I really want to see them try and get Milton Williams. I think if we don't get Trey Smith and say we get like a Mekhi Becton or Will Freeze, anything like that, or even the Fernandez guy you mentioned, Hayes, I would love to get Milton Williams. I think Milton Williams is going to be – he's going to cash in. Now, how much he cash in, I don't know, but I know the last D tackle the Bears had that was on that team when Justin left, can't remember his name, but he got $30 million over 3 years from Arizona. And I think Milton Williams is going to get a little bit more than that, especially off what he did in the Super Bowl. If you got a good agent, that's what's going to happen. Guys get paid, bro. This is long-term security, as I see it. So, as far as the draft, man, I'm excited to see the rest of y'all predictions. I like how it's going so far. I just watched Bobby's and Kev's, man, but I can't wait to see C-Dub. I can't wait to see my man Steve-O, and of course you, Hayes. So, as always, man, your boy Keys, shout down up, bear down.
Listen, Dalman's going to get paid this offseason too, as the market changes. But I understand where you're coming from as far as Trey, right? Trey is going to get paid. And I understand the thought of thinking about spreading that out amongst multiple players, which is what we kind of talked about in the opening segment today. But I also think, like, the defensive line does need to be addressed, and I think it will be addressed. Like, don't forget, the Bears have a lot of cap space and a lot of draft capital. So I think that's why they kind of may have a bigger palette to spend the money that it'll take to get somebody like a Trey Smith, because they can still improve the other positions in various ways. We just may not see as many long-term answers to some of those, right? So we'll see what happens here, but I think if you can get Trey, you get Trey. All right, I think that's just the case. If you get him, you can get him. Right now, you have the cap flexibility to do so, but that doesn't mean that it's all Trey. Everything falls on Trey Smith. There are other ways that the Bears can drastically improve this offensive line. I think that's going to come as well over time, right? So we'll see. As far as Milton Williams, man, glad that you brought him up. I love what he potentially brings. 5 sacks. He's 25 years old. That's what he had last year. He's a guy that's been healthy. Only one season he didn't play all 17 games. That was in 2023. Right now, the sack number, he had 5 sacks last year. He had 4 in 2022, 2 in 2021, and only a half a sack in 2023. The question is how much it will cost to get him in here. And again, is he willing to take on a depth? Because he's not going to start ahead of Billings. He's not going to start ahead of Javon Dexter. That's another question to be here. But Milton as a prospect and as a talent, I don't have really many knocks on it at all. So we'll see if the future holds that. I'm not mad if that ends up being the case, but yeah, we'll see what what happens here with the Bears cap space. But I think we're in a really good position, Keys. Let's get into the last voicemail for today, man. This one's from the 708.
Hey, first time caller, Hayes. Love your show, man. Love Full Central. Been watching you for the past couple years, man. Shout out to you. Before I get started, man, just gotta give you your flowers, bro. You're one of the most realest, content creators out there, man. You and Pat, shout out to you guys, man, for sure. Y'all give us some high quality content. It's harder than people think, but I wanted to leave a message here, man, or actually call this time, leave a message, because I keep seeing everybody, saying that the Bears and Trey Smith and linking us to Trey Smith, the offensive guard from KC, or out of Kansas City. And I'm saying I'm against it. I'm gonna just flat out say it, man. I think that we could do a lot better with what we probably gonna need to fix the offensive line for Caleb. They saying that, he may garner, a contract somewhere around the $20-25 million a year. Not to say that he's not worth it. And he's still a younger guard. Now if the Bears front office says that, hey, this is our guy for the future, we really see him being our guard next to Darnell Wright for the next 10 years. All right, I understand. Go ahead, pay the man, get him. He's the best guy on the market. But right now, if we're trying to build something sustainable, something that is going to be a solid foundation, and maybe we draft a couple more offensive linemen here in the next upcoming draft, maybe they even get some in the draft. I just feel like that $25 million per year, we can use that in better ways, at least on the offensive line. Like, I feel like we can get somebody like Kevin Zeitler out of Detroit. Zach Martin's gonna be on the market. He's probably gonna be looking at maybe like $10 million. You even got like Mekhi Becton. He's probably going from getting paid like $3 million to somewhere around the 10 to 15 at the max, what he's gonna get. But I feel like, man, you could, it's a couple more guys out there, man, to name. But I feel like going for the big swing at guard, paying $25 million for a guard right now would be kind of put us in a bad position where we got other positions to fill, especially in the trenches, on the D-line, and, maybe in the secondary with the help of Jaquan Brisker. So, hey, man, that's just my thoughts. I appreciate you, man. Keep doing your thing. And always, man, see red and bear down. Peace.
First of all, leave your name next time, brother. We like to be able to shout out people with their names. Listen, being against the Trey Smith signing, there's a lot of people that are going to be against that, right? But if you do him, you are paying him for him to be a part of your future, right? It's not that you're paying him to have that whole right side of the ball shored up for the next 10 years, right? That 10 is 6 years, right? 5 to 6 years. That's why you're doing that. And so, that's what you're hopeful in that. So in that, I'm not really mad at it, right? But you still have other assets. You still have players like that you can go after in the draft with starting caliber offensive linemen. Mekhi Becton would not be one. Zeitler is a little bit older, so that would probably be more short term, but he definitely can start here. So I'm not mad at either way they go on it, right? I just think that you're not foregoing improving the total offensive line by signing Trey Smith, at least not in my opinion. But hey, I get the concern. I guess we'll see where it's going to be. But guys, thank you so much for leaving those voicemails. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. That's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.